Hi guys and welcome back. Today I am working on a character design process. So at the very beginning I'm going to design out this character and figure out how I want her to look, and then I'm going to move into working on a final illustration with that character, and I'm going to be doing the final one in watercolor. And I'm really excited because today I am able to bring this to you because this is sponsored with Skillshare, and Skillshare is a website that I actually really love. It is full of thousands, I believe, of creative focused courses you can take. So these are videos that are broken down into very digestible little pieces where you can watch them on lots of different topics. And as I mentioned before, I learn best when I have like a classroom type environment where I'm getting that information in a very constructed way. So I have loved this website for a long time now. And I find it's really helpful when I feel like I'm getting into a little bit of a slump or I'm not really sure how I want to proceed with the next piece, for me to go and watch these and find new topics that I'm interested in, or topics that I already know that I'm interested in and I know I need to work on, and then I can get another artist's take on that, on how to improve. So it is a great resource for me to be able to feel refreshed with what I'm working on, what I'm doing. And I love that this is something that anyone can get in there and take a class, and you can feel creative even when you don't really have any ideas. I've had that many times where I knew that I wanted to create something, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what, and this helped me focus that energy. And anyone can teach classes as well. And the premium membership for Skillshare starts at about $10 a month, but I am excited that I can offer you a coupon code that will allow you to get 2 months free by clicking on the link down in the description or by entering the code Danica2. And this will allow you to get in there, try it out, see if you like it. It does require a credit card when you first sign up, but you can cancel at any time. But yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to try out some really great courses from really great artists. So a little bit about the class itself that I focused on today. I wanted to find one that was on character design, since now that I'm starting to really get into working on my coloring book, I have a new character on almost every single page, so I want to make sure that they're distinct and sharp and full of life. And I find that actual character design is something that I'm a little bit weaker at least the preliminary planning stage of it. I tend to just jump in at a more finalized stage and add details, and then I have a character. And I would love to get more into working on the development of it so that I have options where I can really push the shapes and the composition that the character is actually taking up. So yeah, this is definitely a thing that in my own personal work I would love to see improvement. So to be able to see a class that's taught by an artist that I already loved, focusing on a very specific thing that I was really interested in, I was very excited about that. And she does teach this very well, and she does start off right at the very beginning with these really, really rough thumbnails. And that's what I loved about it, is watching her very expressively create these characters in a way that made sense to me, and it made sense on how I can start building up my characters. A few things that she was mentioning is that when she's very beginning, starting out, she'll use a really rough brush because it keeps her from being able to get in there and add these details too soon. It forces her to work in the silhouette phase where she's working on shapes and that dynamic energy that you can get through that. And she also says that at the very first stage, she doesn't zoom in at all. She just gets these really small thumbnails and goes for it. And that is a way that I would like to work. I'd like to work a lot more expressively and not feel like I suddenly need to get into the details too quick, which is absolutely something that I do find that I do. And I loved how she was talking about how she likes to design the characters so that they have very practical clothing that makes sense for who they are and what they're doing. And I love that. I love thinking through the character and what their day-to-day life is, what tasks they're going to be doing, what things they're interested in, what their style is. There's all these different aspects that can go into a character, and even like the markings on their face or their clothing or the equipment that they're carrying, this can all lead to showing the character in its fullest form. And I love how she's talking about starting off with just like very practical. What is that character going to use? She doesn't get all crazy with throwing in clothing that just doesn't work for them. She just thinks very what they need and how can she design it in a way that's really interesting and beautiful, but also very realistic in the way that that's what they would use. And I love thinking about that. It's kind of like a little puzzle of putting together research that I'm doing, because I did do a lot of research on this character, and this one is actually a gem miner. and I wanted her to have this exploratory look to it. I wanted her to have like a climbing harness on and all these straps and buckles and goggles. So I did do a lot of research on what that kind of a character would be wearing, and I found resources that I could draw this accurately. And it was just really fun to go and find these little pieces that I could put together and find a way to create this character that was my own creation, but based in a lot of very practical elements. So after that first initial character designing that I did, I picked through those more refined versions and I chose the different things in each one that I really liked, so that when I came to the final version, I could put those all together and create a cohesive character that had all of those elements that I discovered that I wanted in it. I think that I definitely could have done better with making sure that she had some of those elements, because after that point, after I designed these characters, I did miss out on a few of the details that I forgot about. So I wish that I had looked at that reference again. That would have definitely did a little bit better of a job as far as making sure that the character reflected what I had planned. So again, that's just a little thing about me getting a little bit better at making sure that I follow through with the design that I create, rather than getting carried away in my old ways of just drawing and making the character on the spot. So I think this was absolutely helpful that I started off from the very beginning, really designing out these characters. But I think that I did fail myself a little bit at not continuing that work that I did all the way through to the end. But again, it's just live and learn. I'll remember that there were things that I need to make sure that I pay attention to when I'm transitioning from the designing part to the final part, to not let myself slip back into just going from what I have there. So a little bit about the colors themselves. I wanted to do this in a little bit of a color blocking method. I wanted the background, the cave that she's in, to have this one color that they all came together on, and there could be slight variations, but basically it would be a blue-purple. And then I wanted that to also mimic within the character and these crystals. I wanted them to have a very strong tie, and I also wanted them to be warm so that they would really pop out of the background. But as I was doing both, I was realizing that they were way too similar and close together. So they were coming together and almost looking like they were on the same plane, and they were getting lost within themselves. So I just took the red that I was using and put a lot more of it on the crystal so that it became more predominantly red, while the character was mostly yellow with red accents. And by adding just that little shift to it, it allowed them to separate. It allows the eye to look at each individual object and then see the connection between them. So a few things that I would love to fix if I could have the opportunity is where I break off at her ankles. So when you're drawing characters, you do not want to break them off at joints. So you don't want to cover things up right where, say, your wrist is, or your elbow, or your knees. It looks really odd because that's naturally where you see a break, so it looks like they're almost disembodied. And I did that with her ankles. I was adding these extra rocks while I was doing the inking phase, and it accidentally covered right on her ankles. So what I should have done is either not had those rocks overlapping her at all so you could still see her feet, or I should have risen them up more so that they covered part of her shin bone. And the other compositional thing that I would like to fix is that one gemstone that's sticking out to the left, where it ends right like in the middle of her two knees. It creates a little bit of a tangent and just gets a little bit lost there, so it's not as clear and as sharp of a profile, and the negative space around both her and the crystal gets a little murky right there. So that's another point that if I could fix it, I would. And the final few touches, I did use white gouache to add back those glossy highlights to the crystals. And I really actually like that it ended up that way because the whites got lost in the crystals as I was painting them. But being able to control them with a really thick, wet medium, I was able to get that glossy look that I wanted. And I will have a link to all of the tools and everything that I've used down in the description. So if you're curious about anything, I've got links and you can check that out. And that is it for today. I want to thank Skillshare again for sponsoring this, since it is a website that I personally love using and I love looking through all the projects and ideas. It's really creatively jump-starting. But again, I'll have the link down in the description that can take you to that 2-month free trial, and the code is also Danica2, like the number 2, Danica2. And I will have a link in the description and the end card to my art shop, so if you want to support me, that's a great way. And I upload every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so I will see you guys at my next one. Thanks for watching.